A child is left alone for just a moment, but still long enough for her to have a possible conversation with a ghost. Look across from her at the wrapped silverware in front of the glass and watch what it does as she speaks. The silverware moves all by itself shortly after she reminds an invisible person that this is not their dinner. She could be talking to an imaginary friend, but that doesn't explain how the object moved without being touched. The ghost appears to leave her alone after this brief interaction, and she happily resumes eating as if nothing happened. Exactly what it was planning to do to their food could be anyone's guess. A YouTuber named Junked Up Kitten and his friends are exploring an old county jail. They take a video camera with them so that they can make a parody of the Ghost Hunters television series. Little did the small group know that on this night they would accidentally capture actual evidence of real ghosts. Junked Up Kitten wanders around the property with the camera close to his face while narrating. He passes by an ordinary looking jail cell window and doesn't think much of it at the time. When he goes back to review the footage later, he makes a startling discovery in the window. It looks like his parody show has turned out to be the real thing. From the other side of the glass, the colorless reflection of a man's face stares at him. You can clearly see the outline of the ghost's brow, nose, and empty eyes. His head is cocked to the right, almost as if he is sizing up a newcomer. His mouth appears to be a thin, expressionless line. If anything, the ghost has incredible timing. Right when Junked Up Kitten says that he is looking for evidence of ghosts, one just happens to show up in the window. It's almost as if the ghost was trying to make its presence known. Perhaps it was even trying to get a hold of someone who could free it from its miserable cell. Anthony Choi is a UFO investigator who has been looking for UFO activity in Peru for the last 25 years. For decades, it had seemed like the aliens were always one step ahead of him, but one summer night, while hunting for humanoids near a gas station in Pachacamac, Peru, Anthony finally captured one of them on his cell phone.
Se está escapando de nosotros.
Grábalo, sí, está caminando, grábalo.
A la mierda, está dando espinitas, es algo.
The blue being vaguely has a human outline. Look closely and you can make out its arms and legs as it glides across the street. It looks like it is made out of pure energy. Whatever the technology is, it comes with one special life-saving trick: teleportation. The humanoid stops in the road just as a freight truck comes barreling its way at about 70 miles per hour. It looks like the strange blue visitor is about to get flattened, but then it suddenly disappears and materializes behind the vehicle like magic. It keeps crossing the street while Anthony watches with his crew in disbelief.
Cálmate.
Me paralizó ahí.
Sí, es una persona, es un globo.
No, estaba caminando.
Está caminando. El globo estaba caminando.
Estaba caminando, esa verdad.
The fact that it stops in the middle of a busy road suggests that this thing is not familiar with our highway traffic rules. Even though it is probably not from this earth, it appears to be well experienced and capable of adapting to new dangers. It continues to cross 3 more lanes and teleports straight through another truck with ease. Anthony and his team of investigators say that the creature was about 3 feet tall with red eyes and a head that was shaped like a pumpkin. As the video shows, they were too overjoyed at the thought of discovering extraterrestrial life to be afraid. It is a video that Anthony will not fear, but instead cherish forever. A wanted man in Ripley, England pulls a crazy move to avoid being captured, completely unaware that his aerial acrobatics are also caught on camera via a newly outfitted police drone unit. He opens the window, hesitates, and then drops down onto a patio roof. It surprisingly holds his weight as he daringly runs across the fence and jumps into somebody's yard. Meanwhile, a ton of police are in pursuit. I have no idea what he did, but he must be risking a serious penalty to want to get away this bad. He outruns a police dog, and at 40 seconds he jumps a fence that not even the K9 unit can handle. He tries to hide in this unkept yard, but it's no use. The drone has him in its sights, and with his position detected, there's nowhere left to hide. He's quickly apprehended. A YouTuber named Yankee Reb travels to the haunted battlefield of Gettysburg, Virginia, and stands before an old battle cannon. He grows very still and records nothing but darkness for a full 20 minutes before any paranormal activity occurs. As the night progresses, a lone soldier silently marches around the cannon and stops just outside of the muzzle, which is where you would stand to reload it.
Holy down by the cannon, you see that?
Oh, what is that?
I say it could be a soldier because, aside from the historic location, I can also kind of make out the old style sash and hat that some soldiers used to wear.
No way. What is that?
I have no idea.
Did you get that on the camera?
It's recording.
Oh my gosh, did you see that?
His attire is most visible at around the 1 minute and 58 second mark, so that's when you can get the clearest and most direct look for yourself. Let me know if you can see what he has on.
Did you, honestly?
I wouldn't believe it unless we recorded it.
Maybe this soldier in particular was accidentally taken out by his own cannon while reloading, which used to happen quite often back those times. This public official in Costa Rica is in the middle of a press release when a small wasp buzzes all around his face. The man is caught up with his speech and he doesn't notice it until he accidentally takes the wasp into his mouth.
Los debates naturales que hay en una zona tan importante como esta, que sin embargo me la comí.
A member of the media sees the whole thing and her facial expression changes to anxiety as she puts her hand to her mouth in surprise, clearly waiting for him to scream. You can see the wasp has a tiny stinger that could deal a lot of pain to the soft tissue of the mouth or gums. I'm amazed that he didn't get stung, or if he did, he played it off well. Something has crawled up this poor woman's leg and refuses to come out. Her friend almost has it by the tail, but then at the last second it does the unthinkable and burrows even deeper. The scared animal probably would have gone up way higher if she didn't stand up in time and let gravity force it back down. She is either trying not to scream or lose her lunch as her friend tries again, this time wrapping its tail around his index finger. He manages to extract a giant rat and quickly puts it back in its container. The rat looks used to being handled, and this is probably the only thing that kept it from trying to bite and scratch its way out. This footage comes from Vietnam, where all sorts of strange creatures are rumored to still roam free through the wild and unconquered forests. This stuffed humanoid in particular has been deceased for quite some time, possibly for decades, and now looks discolored and slowly falling apart. It appears to be half man, half snake. Long blonde hair grows from its human-like head, which is furry all over yet also covered in straw blonde facial hair. Two rodent-like arms stick out from its fur-covered upper body. Its face looks like a cross between a man and an ape. The nose looks like it belongs to a primate, but the gray lifeless eyes and smirking mouth look like they could belong to a person. Its scaly lower half looks exactly like a snake's. Watching this thing in action must have been a terrible and shocking sight. How such a creature could come to be is unexplainable, yet here it is. Perhaps there are even more of them out in the wild. It's videos like this that make me believe ignorance is bliss. Simon Lawrence caught this drone footage of a great white shark scoping up a 7-meter crab boat near Port Lincoln, South Australia in October of 2017. You can see the enormous shark drift carelessly beneath the boat. At first, the shark appears to have no interest, but then the shark does a 180 and returns, appearing to nudge the rear of the boat.
Like a cane.
Simon said that the shark put its nose against the motor and started to push us around. It then put its mouth over the echo sounder transducer. You can see the shark surface a couple times, which is quite scary in and of itself. Just seeing that face above the water is a little too Jaws-esque for the faint of heart. You can also see the shark move against the motor, although it doesn't seem to have caused any damage. After a while, the shark heads off and takes a rope with it. This incident would not have me going for a swim there anytime soon. Zayneo barely manages to turn his live stream on and say hello before something unexplainably paranormal happens behind him. The window somehow goes from being tightly shut to wide open in less than 10 seconds without a sound. If I'm not mistaken, this type of window doesn't even open from the outside, meaning that somebody had to be standing in the room to even push it open. Zayneo quickly searches his house in less than a minute and finds no one else's home, but when he crosses into the living room, the batteries in his smoke alarm go off for no reason at all. I know this part is real because this is the first time you hear the smoke alarm beep in the entire video.
Okay. Ooh, okay. Smoke alarm malfunction?
The smoke alarm going off combined with the window opening by itself, is enough to convince me that this is probably paranormal. Passengers on a ride at the state fair dangle helplessly high in the air, unable to do anything but wait to be let off as technicians struggle to manually gain control over each of the 3 spinning sections. There is not much time to act and every second is precious. The ride stopped because of an electrical malfunction, which means it can possibly start up again at any moment and smash everything to pieces. Meanwhile, everyone's restraints are being tested to the max as they hang upside down with their full weight suspended in midair. A loose screw or moving part could send them into the concrete below. The workers have to level out the seats so that they are upright before lowering the ride. I can only imagine how high everyone's anxiety levels must have been, especially the family members watching from the outside. A janitor is closing up a restaurant in San Francisco called The Chapel, which is said to be haunted by the ghost of a small girl. As soon as he is done locking the door, something tries to leave and then runs away. If she was afraid of getting locked in, why didn't she bang on the door to be let out? Also, how come she didn't say anything when all of the lights turned off? On the contrary, if this was instead a real person trying to sneak in, then she probably wouldn't immediately try to open the door because it could set off an alarm. I guess she could just be making sure the janitor really is leaving. But since this restaurant is said to be haunted by the ghost of a small girl, I believe this could be her. Most people think of houses, hospitals, or jails when they think about ghost sightings, but some of the most unsuspecting of places can turn out to be the most haunted. This footage was taken in a popular food joint during broad daylight. A shadowy ghost suddenly materializes in a Subway restaurant. It starts out in the shape of a human and almost appears to be getting a table. When it gets back to its seat, the black shadow suddenly changes into a floating black blob of an orb. At this point, an employee or maybe a customer appears to see the ghost in the doorway. Whoever they are, they look stunned for a second and then quickly back away. The shadow orb pays no attention to the human as it floats up to the window and lingers there. It's almost as if it's taking a look at the outside world. The ghost starts to rise even higher and shrinks until it fully disappears back to wherever it came from. Jacob Vetter, who published this drone footage in May of 2015, claims that this, quote, crazy lady, unquote, was doing, quote, weird stuff, unquote, on his porch. In the video, you can indeed see someone on the porch. When she spots the drone above, she does as most people do on this list have done. She tries to knock the drone out of the sky. First, she uses a stick. That doesn't go over so well. Then she tries plush dice. That doesn't work either. Next, she is seen swinging what appears to be a black purse, but she doesn't throw it. Instead, she puts it on and leaves the yard, but paces back and forth waywardly on the sidewalk. It's uncertain what she's waiting for, if she's waiting for anything at all. Finally, she gets on her bike that's been parked on the sidewalk all along, and she takes off rather clumsily, circling around in the yard, then jutting out right into the road. What exactly is going on here? Because I have no idea at all. I will say it's certainly bizarre though, but the biggest question is, what was she doing on this guy's porch in the first place? Two friends are feeding their pet rabbits in the living room when they suddenly hear a mysterious noise coming from outside. Both of them are feeling pretty brave as they creep up the window and continue recording. As tough as they might be, neither of them are prepared for what they see next.
There's something like
Crouching down there.
Yeah, could you get the light? Yeah. What? Yeah, there's something back there.
Outside, some sort of orange four-legged humanoid is facing away from them. It's very low to the ground. Look directly under the clothesline if you can't see it. It's a strange glowing color that doesn't seem to belong in this world. Play the tape again in slow motion and you can clearly see the humanoid sprint away as soon as one of them knocks on the window to get its attention. It's clearly startled as it retreats over a fence with a speed too fast for its bulky body. The two of them rush out in the backyard for a fight, but they find that the creature is already gone. They check a nearby alley and quickly give up. Nobody was hurt. As for what the humanoid was doing, perhaps it smelled the scent of two rabbits and went in search of a fresh meal. Ghosts don't have to wait until nighttime before they can begin to haunt. As this Brazilian soccer footage shows, the crowd is happily cheering on their favorite team when suddenly a shadow ghost starts sprinting through all of them. Look closely and you'll notice how nobody tries to move out of the way. Even though a person is clearly running full speed at them, not a single person tries to pull their legs in or even bothers to look up. They are so concentrated on the game that they do not see, feel, or hear the ghost as it runs directly through the half-filled stadium in a straight line. Police arrive to find a mother of two is seeing things on the roof while holding her two children. She doesn't believe a word anyone has to say and thinks everyone is out to get her. Now it's up to them to bring everybody down safely. They climb onto the narrow ledge and there's barely enough room for a grown man to stand. She is in such an anxious, delusional state that not even a legitimate badge and uniform are enough to convince her. My analysis of this part is that she thinks that he is putting away his badge too quickly, which in her mind means it must be fake.
Where's your badge?
There you go.
Okay, really?
Yeah, real.
No, really, let me see.
Yeah, right here. See? It says police.
Sergeant?
Yeah.
Eventually, she thinks he is real, but then she thinks his partner is an imposter. She reads his name tag out loud and freaks out.
No, who are you? Point Blank? Point Blank's body adventure? No, Point Blank!
I think his name is Blaine Points or something like that, but I can't figure out what the significance is to her. Also, it sounds like she calls him a body avenger, whatever that means. At this point, she is so frantic that she might lose her balance. So the cops have to grab the kids by the arm and get into a terrifying tug of war. The poor kid has an adult pulling on each arm. The situation is probably horrifying for them. Eventually, the police win and round the children up, who sadly probably won't be seeing their mother again until well into their teenage years, if ever. Caitlin McIntyre is making a video of her grandpa that she wants to remember for the rest of her life, which actually might be shorter than she thinks. It may seem like nothing bad could ever happen to them on such a perfectly sunny day, but to their immediate right is a sharp drop straight off a cliff. They hit a point where the curved road grows very narrow, just as the sun beats down on their car at the worst possible angle, turning the entire windshield into nothing but a blinding white glare. Grandpa does his best to stay on the road, but the sun is so intense that not even his oversized sunglasses can get the glare out of his eyes. They find some brief cover under the trees, and they can see that the road is too narrow to safely turn around. You can tell he doesn't want to keep going, but it's too late now and there is no other choice. He has to go back into the blinding sunlight and keep pushing forward just a little bit more until he can make this turn.
Maybe there's something up ahead.
He only has a short distance to go before he can turn around, but he almost manages to drive completely off the cliff instead.
I'm starting to get a little worried.
I can't even see. Where am I?
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Just to give you a better idea at how close they were to falling off, this is a brief glimpse of the side of the cliff. You can see he was still turning right and had to majorly correct the steering wheel to avoid tumbling below. Eventually, Caitlin gets out of the car and guides her grandfather to safety. You can still see that the sun is still totally in his eyes, and it's a small miracle they made it out of there alive. Two friends are fishing when they hear somebody else firing for hunt not too far away. The two don't think much of it and let the man continue his hobby while they continue theirs. They keep casting into the water and everything is going fine for about a minute, and then the two sports collide.
Holy! Stop! Hey! Hey! It hit my boat!
Look again and you can tell that he doesn't pick his foot up for dramatic effect. It was really that close. When you slow down the video to frame by frame, you can briefly see the round as it bounces off the deck right by his foot. If they had been drifting downriver, even just a little faster, it would have been a direct hit and a trip to the hospital for certain. These brave scientists are tracking the spread of Ebola by testing local bat colonies in the African Congo. You would think that they wouldn't want to find any traces of Ebola, but it's actually the exact opposite. They're hoping to follow the infected bats back to the source of Ebola to eradicate it once and for all. It's about 3 a.m. and they have hours of testing to do in the middle of the night before they can get any rest. They have to stay awake and alert at all times. Any one of the bats could be contaminated, and all it would take is a single bite or a direct transmission of fluids to cause the next human outbreak. They hose themselves down with a special medical spray and take other precautions, but I can't help but notice they have a lot of exposed skin, particularly around the neck. If one of the bats lands on that area and sinks their teeth in, it could start another epidemic. All I know is that if I'm in the middle of an area known for Ebola, you better believe I want every square inch fully covered. This popular chain restaurant in a children's hospital is said to be haunted, and I need your help to tell if this is real or not. A small transparent girl runs by, but something is a little off about the video, and it looks like it might be photoshopped. If any video editing experts can tell me if this ghost sighting is fake or real, I could definitely use your help. A drone is deployed by the Randolph County Sheriff's Department in North Carolina to try and find a missing elderly woman who has memory problems and has wandered away from home. A few hundred feet from her house, they find a single speck of purple, her jacket, standing out from the outskirts of a cornfield. She looks to be a few rows in and standing motionless, probably wondering how she got here and what to do next. She seems to be pretty out of it, because instead of waving for help, she simply pulls her hood up when she sees the drone like it frightens her. 2 officers are able to locate her on the ground after the drone sighting. I'm glad she was found. It's scary to think what could have happened if she wasn't wearing a bright color like purple. She could have easily been passed over and left to fend for herself. Randy Doss claims to live in a haunted house and offers this video evidence for proof.
I dare you to slam that door.
They start recording this video after the door opens all by itself, at which point they try to get the spirit to do something else, and with that said, the ghost seemingly takes up the challenge. Watch the crack in the door and you'll see there's absolutely nobody on the other side.
No.
Just for the record, it's only Nick and I here.
Just when the door almost slams shut, this happens.
Oh my god, no! Oh my god!
Whoa.
The obvious answer is that there is a child standing on the other side of the door, but look again. There appears to be nothing more than an empty sleeve, and more importantly, it doesn't make contact with the door at all. This makes me think that whatever forced the door open could have also rustled the nearby jacket too. This Iraqi child is unique from her peers in many different ways, because her skin and hair have no pigmentation at all, but most importantly, her eyes are pure red. The reason she squints into the camera is because her red eyes absorb all of the light instead of reflecting it. Her parents see this rare eye color as a blessing, but some see it as a curse. After all, red eyes are a nearly universal sign of possession in many cultures, though I doubt this is the case here. Some superstitious folks will no doubt be wary of her before they have a chance to better understand. Her red eyes will stay this way for the rest of her life and hopefully cause her no social stigma. A group of British friends are playing catch in a courtyard when one of them sees something strange and points it out to the others. The camera follows his gaze and stops on a pale face looking at them from high above. The sickly person looks at them for a second longer before silently slipping out of view. The group is now creeped out and wants to know who has been spying on them this whole time. They tell the property manager about the face they saw in the window, but she says that it's impossible. The room they are talking about has been locked and unoccupied for quite some time. The manager goes up with them to unlock the door and show them around. They try and find the person, but the place is completely empty. There's no way anyone could have been up there, yet the camera obviously says differently. The mysterious peeper has never been identified. A YouTuber named Tracy Slaughter and her family hear a disturbance at the top of the steps, and they grab the camera to record what they are seeing for proof. It starts out very hard to see at first, but soon a pale white outline slowly appears against the wall. The head becomes visible in the very center of the room where the 2 wall patterns meet.
I didn't say lights.
Oh
You didn't say lights. Did you say go across? A light go across the top of the landing.
If you still don't see it, don't feel bad. The next part is much more obvious. Keep looking at the center of the stairway to see it.
It's only just gone across the top of the landing, and that's moving.
Can you ever see it?
Oh,
A being of pure white energy rushes down the steps and heads straight at them. If you play it in slow motion, you can see something actually comes around the corner and charges down the steps at them, sending everyone scattering. I guess this could be special effects, but I would like to get your opinion. The way everyone screams at the exact same time with true panic in their voices makes me think it could be real, in which case I'm glad they got out of there fast. If it was rushing forward to possess one of them, then I truly hope it does not succeed. Steve and Jake are wandering around the woods one summer night with a single goal in mind. They want to explore an abandoned local chapel that's rumored to be haunted. As they approach, they see that someone has written prayers and warnings all over the outside wall. The two friends instantly get a bad feeling about this adventure, but they swallow their fear and decide to press on. The rickety main door is locked, so they sneak around back. Already, they don't want to be here much longer. They had explored an old clock tower earlier in the day and were greatly disappointed by a lack of paranormal activity, but they could tell this church is way different. The place looked and felt quite haunted. They go up some wooden steps and enter through the back door. They shine their flashlights deep into the church's main assembly. There's rows and rows of wooden pews ahead of them. They pass by a podium and notice a piano. Then they head deeper inside. Now they find themselves inside of a small maintenance closet. They close the door behind them because they don't want anyone sneaking up on them. It feels like anyone could be watching them right now. They see a ladder to the left. Steve is about to climb it until Jake jokes that a body is going to fall down on him if he does, so he decides not to. That's when the piano starts to play from outside.
Oh no. Oh my god. Turn off the light. Listen. Oh shit, that's fucking piano. Is that piano? Come on. Should we go out there? Is that door open?
It's a soft and haunting piano melody that fills the church. Steve and Jake shut off their flashlights and keep recording. They debate whether or not they should go outside or stay here, where it's semi-safe. They realize that they can't spend the entire night trapped in the broom closet of a haunted church, so they turn their flashlights back on to see who is playing. Sitting at the piano at the far end of the room is a black hunched over phantom. They scream and shut the door. Jake cries for a bit, then they run away through the back exit. The music stops as soon as they leave the church. They were hoping that the music stopped because it was over, but in reality, it was because the ghost had gotten up from the piano to chase them. They run a good distance before pausing to look back into the dark scenery. It seems like they've gotten away, but then the ghost finds them and they run away screaming. The camera cuts off as they fall back deeper into the woods. At least one of them survived and uploaded this video onto YouTube, where it's remained for the past 10 years. Whoever shot this footage claims to have been filming back in 2008. They were exploring an abandoned house and decided to start filming after hearing a strange noise. It's a very short clip since it wasn't long before they were running out of the house screaming. Reviewing the footage again, you can clearly see that this is not an ordinary forest creature. Its front legs bend inwards as it runs, kind of like a human running on all fours. It doesn't appear to have much of a face, yet it can somehow make a terrifying scream. The humanoid appears to be ready for the cameraman as soon as he opens the door. It approaches aggressively, but also with a hint of caution, for it rushes at the cameraman at only half speed. It also doesn't seem to pursue him when he starts running, which means it's probably just claiming its territory and wants to be left alone. The YouTuber who uploaded this video says that this is not their only encounter with the creature. Another time they were exploring the abandoned house with a friend and a knife. They peer into the house from the front yard and listen for any signs of the creature inside. They don't hear anything, so they decide to go further in to investigate. That's when they hear its disturbing warning cries. It sounds like a mix between a squealing pig and some sort of enraged dinosaur. The two quickly turn off their flashlights and remain quiet in the dark. Then they slowly get up and start sneaking away, but just when they think they are safe.
The heck is that? Oh, shoot, shoot! Just get out of the house, get out of the house. Just get back to the house. Just get back to the house. Jesus Christ.
They run back full speed to their nearby home. When they review the footage, they vow to go back to the property the next day with guns, but they never got the courage to follow through. Since the monster never chased them in either video, perhaps it was just as uncertain of them as they were of it. A man in Daytona goes roof hopping to get away from police. He's almost grabbed at 1 minute and 49 seconds, so he turns around and goes to slide off the roof, only to find more officers waiting for him below. Surrounded, desperate, and unable to see anything ahead of him, he hesitates but makes a last-ditch effort and buys him a few more minutes of freedom. He lays on his back while they search for him. Whenever they get close, he simply crawls to the other side and waits some more. Soon, the drone gives away his position over the radio, and they know exactly where to look. At 3 minutes and 10 seconds, you can see them climb up to call him out and talk him down. On the left side of the screen is a police dog, so at this point there's nothing left for him to do other than give up. He appears to be trying to look for a way out of this at 3 minutes and 24 seconds, but he is unsuccessful. He waits for them to get a ladder instead and then climbs down to accept his fate. The local lake is overflowing and freezing at the same time. Now a giant mass of jagged ice is pushing past the shore. At first, the freak weather is somewhat fun to play in, but as the lake continues to spill over, they realize their houses will soon be in the way of the carnage. The moving mass of ice shards crackles loudly as it continues to expand, first past their yard and then up to their front door. Within less than a minute, the situation changes from amusing to desperate.
It's hitting the houses. It's crawling up the walls of the houses. Yeah. Oh my god, their door's in!
By now, the ice is piled up beyond control, and an entire lake's worth of frozen water threatens to push the houses from their very foundation. Within just 6 minutes, the entire landscape has switched from greenery to solid frost. I'm guessing they had to stop recording and evacuate shortly thereafter.
Leo Mayo, you out here?
Spectators gaze overhead at a bizarre white light piercing the sky. Adults and children alike gather in the street with their cell phones out. None of them can figure out what is going on, much less put the situation into words. The whole ordeal almost looks like a helicopter searchlight, except that it makes no noise and does not move at all. A NASA experiment or even a portal to an alternate dimension are two more possibilities, however unlikely they may be. Whatever this is, it happened somewhere over California in October of 2018 and has never been properly explained. A YouTuber named Lawrence Ryan takes off his shirt and throws it over a shelf. A while later, he returns to the area and now finds the discarded piece of laundry has somehow shifted into a face. This shift continues before his very eyes until Lawrence grabs a camera to document the paranormal event. The shirt takes the appearance of a grinning demonic face who is looking down into the left. If you don't see it yet, you soon will. The transformation is not yet fully complete. The camera goes out of focus very briefly as Lawrence struggles to zoom in while walking closer. And when the camera corrects itself and comes back into play, the face is changed again. Pause at 1 minute and 47 seconds into the video, and you will see it now has a very deep, ceased brow, a sharp angular nose, and a strange expression that looks like a cross between a frown and a smirk. I really don't see how any of this is possible, but then again, if it's fake, then I don't know how they did it either. The shirt is hanging from a shelf and should not hold any form at all. If they tried to somehow fold it into the shape of a face, I don't think it would stay like that for long. This video, published by Chopped Liver in April of 2015, will demonstrate why it's not wise to mess with farmers. Chopped Liver wrote, "Always be sure to ask for permission before flying over someone's property. Found out the hard way what happens." He went on to say that the drone was in police evidence and they were going to court over the incident. This isn't the first time nor the last that drones have been entangled in controversy over something like this. Do you think the farmer was in the right to take the drone down, or do you think he went too far? I think the biggest takeaway from all this is that the easiest thing to do when flying a drone over someone's property is to ask them first. After all, you don't want your drone's fate to be this. Desert workers in Portugal were in for a giant surprise after a huge humanoid decided to wander around the remote job site. The workers were casually filming the desert landscape and having a private conversation when they noticed a hulking creature stomping its way across the prairie in the distance.
Caralho, velho. Puta, onde que tá agora, pô? Olha lá, ó.
This towering humanoid looks 3 times the size of a regular person. The length of its forearms alone is probably the size of a grown man's leg, and despite being heavily hunched over, it looks to be well over 7 feet tall. It's almost as tall as the tree it disappears behind. The stunned Portuguese workers were filming for a bit, and when the creature doesn't re-emerge, they wisely choose not to pursue and the video ends. They definitely made the right decision by leaving it alone. One look at its massive arms and long legs and you'd have no doubt that this monster could have easily defended itself against them. This 2-minute video shows a random lunatic losing his mind in a room full of nothing but trash. The way he makes noises to himself and slaps at the wall is enough to give anyone anxiety. The room is so disgusting that I think only someone with real problems would be down here. When he stops thrashing around long enough to talk, his voice sounds childlike and distant. It sounds like he's crawling on his hands and knees saying it's too long during this part, whatever that means.
Tutorial.
When somebody quits their job, they are supposed to give them a 2-week notice. This contractor gets very angry at his job site and gives a 2-second notice instead in the form of total carnage. He shows little regard for the safety of a co-worker who is trying to talk some sense into him as he repeatedly slams the heavy equipment into the same spot over and over again, bringing down chunks of ceiling each time. Fortunately, he seems more concerned with wrecking the property rather than taking lives, although he is lucky he didn't bring the entire place down on everyone. This footage comes from somewhere in the Middle East. A group of teenagers are curiously exploring an old school. They go up a flight of steps and pause when they hear a dog whining on the other side of the door. They all run down the steps and gather at the bottom. They're afraid of being attacked by a group of stray dogs now, but they decide to press on and explore the lower areas. The group finds bravery in their numbers and begins to joke and laugh again as they make their way down a long hallway. They open a door and find graffiti on the wall. Other people had been here before them. Maybe this place isn't so bad after all. The teens grow a little more nervous as they continue to poke around. They are laughing less and starting to go silent. Something just isn't right about this section of the building. A YouTuber named Zabin Jaguar translated their comments. He says at this point one of the teens say that their phone shut itself off even though it was fully charged only a moment ago. Another person was able to keep recording, though they probably now wish they hadn't. They enter one classroom in particular and get a dreadful feeling. Suddenly, a figure actually appears out of thin air and walks towards them. The ghost is missing his head, but there's somehow no blood. A loud chanting begins as soon as the ghost walks towards them, but this may be prayers from a nearby mosque. Amazingly, the group all appears to have missed the ghost, which explains why they calmly continue to keep exploring. They wouldn't see the apparition until much later, but when they did, they would never forget what was heading straight towards them in that room.
猴娃的小名叫犬子，大名曾繁盛，已经30岁了。猴娃不会说话，只能喊出几种简单的声。
Otherwise known as the hybrid man, this intimidating giant grew up in a rural peasant village not too long ago. Though skeptics believe that this man simply suffered from a genetic disease, all we have to rely on for sure is the legend of his birth as told by his mother. Here's what she says happened to her. One day a huge and savage humanoid snatched her from her village and took her to his lair against her will. The wild man spoke no language and appeared to have no part in civilization. Instead, choosing to live deep in the wild on its own, he forced himself on her many times for days on end, and soon she became pregnant with his son. She eventually escaped back to her village and 9 months later gave birth.
So the story goes that the boy's mother had claimed she was kidnapped by a Yirin, which is a Chinese version of Bigfoot.
Her giant humanoid offspring never seemed to adjust well in human society. Our complex social mannerisms were too foreign for him to grasp. He could likewise not speak any Chinese, but he did grow to understand a few basic commands. Other than a few instances of brief interactions with people, his gestures were purely animalistic in nature. He ate like a wild animal and squatted on his haunches instead of sitting like a man. He died at the age of 33 and was quickly forgotten by the community. The footage was discovered much later, and the hybrid man's story soon grew into the internet legend that we know it as today. When researchers went to the village to learn more, however, there was little information to be found. Though theories abound, his true origin remains a mystery to this day. This restaurant is said to have a spirit who refuses to resign from their position even in the afterlife. Late at night, a phantom white image is caught hovering above tables, presumably to take orders and refill drinks. At the 42-second mark, it looks like it turns and extends an arm to put down a check or wipe off a table before abruptly flying away. This video was taken near the Pearl Tower in Shanghai, China. The forecast is clearly cloudy and thunder can be heard in the distance. It appears people began recording when they saw someone who appears to be levitating or hanging off the tower. Suddenly, there's a surge of lightning, and it appears this person acts as a lightning rod because he's shocked numerous times by the lightning. But the man is fine and stays suspended in midair. I couldn't find any additional information on the incident, So it appears we'll never know what happened to this individual beyond the recording of this video, if this video is real. A YouTuber named Stirrin's Wild World is grabbing some firewood from a pile when she notices something small and dangerous moving from within. You probably don't see anything, and neither did I at first. Without some hesitation, she carefully uses a grabbing stick to extract the beast from its hiding spot.
More venom. More venom!
It's not just any cobra, it's a cobra that actually spits venom. The sight fills her with fear and fascination. Watch as she keeps its mouth pointed away from her as she examines its body. She is giving some basic information about the species when it somehow slips past her guard. It doesn't look like she loosens her grip at all, but rather the snake flattens its jaws and slides through.
Okay, the reason why I'm in love. Whoa!
She manages to snag it by the tail again and moves backwards as the snake comes at her, spitting venom all the while. The video ends before she gets a chance to release it, but based on how it's aggressively moving towards her, I have no idea how she plans to get away. When a drone drifted over a residential area in Overland Park, two boys on bikes spotted it overhead, and that's when they jumped off their bikes to have a go at it. You can see one of the kids pick something up, I'm assuming a rock, but the drone is much too high up to actually knock it down. The kids follow it for a while, but don't come close enough to truly taking it down, although they make a valiant effort to do so. Eventually they give up, but the drone doesn't. It continues to follow them for a good 8 minutes, with the boys getting fed up enough every now and then to stop and throw more rocks. Certainly a scary and bizarre encounter for both parties involved. This New Orleans restaurant called Tableau's is thought to be haunted by a ghost who will punish you for what it perceives as any bad beverage selections. Here a waiter is preparing the room for a private party and has finished stocking the refreshments when, coincidentally, the bottles all fly off the shelf and land in the exact area he had just finished sweeping. 3 separate comments in this video further verify that this restaurant is quite haunted. One person said the window in this very same room unlatched itself, another said the fire alarm went off on its own, and a third person said they are never going there again because the spirit was staring at them. These comments, combined with this video evidence, is enough to build a strong case for the paranormal in my opinion, but let me know what you think. Kevin Diebenprock finds himself at the bottom of a ditch. He is not doing well enough to stand up, but he can still hold a camera and record, so he makes a goodbye video to his friends. Oh, and he did try to call for help, but he couldn't get a signal. The sun sets and I think most of us would have passed out or completely panicked by now, but hours later Kevin is calm and focused enough to think of a pretty good plan.
7 o'clock. Gotta use my flashlight to wave somebody down.
You can hear traffic pass him the entire time just 50 feet away, but nobody has any reason to look at the bottom of a huge ditch as they keep going.
Yeah, I could use a drink of water.
I am amazed that he is not crying or anything as he calmly says goodbye, totally at peace with the situation.
Alright. Love you. Love you, Courtney.
Kevin was found by a random person a full 30 hours later, long after this video ended, and his cell phone has lost its charge. He is still alive and okay. This video could very well be proof that the humanoid kingdom extends into the insect world. At first glance, this video appears to be a firefly or some similar sort of bug, but when slowed down frame by frame, you can clearly see that this is not a bug at all, but rather appears to be a tiny winged humanoid. The video shows an insect-like humanoid with clearly discernible arms and legs. Unlike most bugs, this humanoid only has 4 limbs, and the arms appear to be twice as short as the legs, much like a person. There's simply no insect on Earth like it. It's just too bad the lighting conditions don't provide more detail, because it would have been interesting to see more of its face and overall color patterns. Exactly where this video was shot is not known. Shortly after moving into their new apartment, this couple began to feel watched, so they installed a camera in the bedroom. A few nights later, they record a full-grown adult standing outside of their window. At first, he is so focused on staring into their bedroom that he doesn't even seem to notice or care about how obvious he stands out against the well-lit parking lot. When the couple inside walks closer to the window and gets on the bed, he tries to be a little more cautious but fails miserably. It's pretty obvious that he is still there and eagerly looking straight at them. He is about as close to the window as he can be, and he is probably really getting into the idea of watching them without being seen himself, not knowing that he himself is on camera. They can see him the entire time, and this is the exact moment that the boyfriend goes out and confronts the man, who quickly stands up and shows no aggression as he walks away. It turns out to actually be their neighbor next door. He came over and apologized the next day, but something tells me that this is a compulsion that he cannot help, and soon enough he will be back at it again, if not with them, then with someone else. Two girls are alone in their house when one of them sees something in the doorway. Pause the video and you can see it's clearly the upper half of a young girl who is dressed in old-fashioned clothes from another time period. She is floating in midair as she curiously peeks in on the two children to see what they are doing. One of the girls still doesn't see the ghost. She shouts at something that's on television and accidentally startles the ghost away. The girl with the camera follows the ghost as it retreats. The ghost instantly teleports and now stares at them from the top of the steps. The scared girls run out of the house screaming. They stop only for a second to turn around from the street. They can see the ghost girl walking across the left window on the top floor. It vanishes and then suddenly appears on the bottom floor in less than a second. They scream even louder and take off again. Multiple cameras capture a UFO hovering over Jerusalem in 2011. The small moving ball of light glides over the building tops for a while, and then does a dazzling aerial maneuver that no human aircraft could ever possibly replicate. I would think this is CGI, but the same event was reportedly witnessed by numerous people who don't know each other. In this second video, you can see the ball of light is over the same domed building as the before and abruptly flies straight up. I will admit that the UFO in the first video looks a little different than the UFO in the second video, but I think the first video was recorded with a digital camera and the second was recorded with a cell phone from almost a decade ago, so that would explain the visual discrepancies. This amateur footage was shot somewhere in an underground sewage system. The cameraman is presumably a maintenance worker who is wearing a chest cam. Little did he expect to find a humanoid down there with him. The video begins with the cameraman seemingly frozen in place. The camera is very still, as if the maintenance worker is too afraid to move. Maybe he heard a noise and is waiting for a creature to reveal itself. Suddenly, a pair of floating eyes peer at him from the distance. The eyes appear to belong to some sort of nocturnal predator. They reflect so much light that all you can see are two gigantic white dots that are roughly as wide around as flashlights. The humanoid does not appear to have much experience with humans and seems apprehensive as it peers around the corner. It decides to run away and the cheap camera cuts out before we can see any more of the chase. The creature seems incredibly fast and probably got away, but exactly what happened next is anyone's guess. The video footage survived, so the cameraman probably did as well. Then again, maybe they recovered it from his dead body instead. There's just not enough information out there to say for sure. This video shows a concerned sister checking in on her sleeping sibling. I'm not sure why she would be holding a camera to do so, but I guess she wanted to record the moment. A girl she has never seen before is hovering over her sister's bed without saying a word, and when she turns to leave to get help, the ghostly child teleports in the doorway to block her.
Are you alright? Oh my god!
The girl standing in the door does look like the same girl who is just standing by the bed. They are wearing the same outfit and have the exact same hair length and color, so I guess it's possible that this was a spirit. Then again, if this was staged, then maybe there was a second girl who was standing in the doorway the whole time to make it look like they teleported. A YouTuber named Elton Minea Severo is recording a webcam video. When a phone call interrupts him, it looks like he might sense that something is nearby when he is talking, but he is too distracted by the conversation to give it much more than a moment's thought. As soon as he hangs up the phone, a white moon-shaped face peeks in from around the corner. It surveys the room for a bit before ducking down and leaping out of sight when Elton turns around, at which point you can momentarily see some kind of weird body with short arms and legs. There is a chance that all of this could be edited, but before you immediately think this is fake, keep in mind that it was recorded in 2006, so pretty much all webcam videos looked grainy like this. If anything, this was a pretty high quality video for its time, especially considering YouTube was less than 2 years old when it was uploaded, so who knows what it could have been. A man in Florida is making random drone videos while his family enjoys the water. He never thought one of his drone videos would catch a deep-sea creature way too close to an oblivious crowd. At 1 minute and 12 seconds, you can tell by the way its dorsal fin sticks straight up that it's a shark, not a dolphin. A dolphin's top fin curves back and this one doesn't. At 18 seconds, the shark casually curves towards this woman and then abruptly swims away. She panics and reaches out for help, though the person she reaches for has had his back turned and would have been unable to do much of anything anyway. The drone goes on to record some more scary shark moments on camera, like this mother who has her back turned as her children swim its way. I'm thankful nobody got hurt. Fortunately, the shark doesn't appear to be hungry and swims off, but there would have been trouble if anybody got in its way. There's a famous pub in Sydney, Australia called the Carlisle Castle Hotel. For years, this local watering hole has been haunted by the ghost of Old Pete, a bitter ex-employee who left the earth quite some time ago, but not his job. His ghostly antics have been caught on camera no less than 3 times. The first time Pete was caught on tape, he was helping a customer. The unsuspecting man opens the door to the cooler when Pete decides to grab 2 bottles of red wine for himself. His ghost grip must have not been too tight though, because both bottles go crashing to the floor. Looking at the footage, there's no way that the shelf gave out or anything like that. The bottles were thrown to the ground with deliberate force with no one nearby. Another incident occurred when the bar was full of witnesses. Everyone is happily enjoying themselves when a hanging red wine glass suddenly dislodges itself and smashes into the counter. Glass shards fly everywhere and the entire bar takes notice. Although this could have simply been a freak accident, what are the chances that, of all the red wine glasses, the one that's directly underneath the server happens to be the one to fall and break? The timing is almost too perfect to be a coincidence. Old Pete strikes again. The third and final tape reveals a glimpse of Old Pete himself. The bar is empty this time when the angry ghost suddenly materializes in front of the security camera. If you look closely, you can make out Old Pete's head at the bottom of the screen. He appears to be waving. Many other bartenders and customers all claim to have seen Old Pete for themselves in one way or another. It isn't uncommon for tapes to turn on by themselves, and the bartenders have seen what they can only describe as strange things while counting down their registers after close. To make this all even stranger, all of the bottles that go crashing to the floor are always high-end red wines. This just so happened to be Old Pete's favorite drink, at least when he was still with the living. This video was brought to my attention on the Chills Narrator subreddit by a user named Ryan Coolvids. The baby monitor of a family in Michigan catches a transparent figure briskly walking by the crib of their sleeping daughter. Moments later, the toddler's head pokes out to see if one of their parents is in the room, but they are nowhere near. Weirdest and most frightening of all is how you can see the figure literally vanishes seconds after it walks by the crib. It crosses the room and then it disappears before it gets to the doorway, almost like an emotionally charged event destined to repair itself without end. This cemetery footage was taken over 10 years ago, and the owner was looking over it at random when he noticed a humanoid object in the background for the first time. As the camera pans over the tombstone, you can see something rushing out from the background. As soon as the cameraman noticed this, he enhances the footage and slows it down to make sure his eyes weren't deceiving him. To his amazement, the adjustment only made things even more clear. This is what he saw. This strange sighting has since caused a huge debate online as to whether or not this humanoid was a gray alien or a ghoul. Many people point out that aliens aren't really seen in the cemetery, but ghouls on the other hand, Who knows what other kinds of humanoids have been accidentally caught on tape, waiting to be discovered. Number 8. The Thing. This old VHS tape of a girl dancing is definitely paranormal, at least if you believe what the uploader Sharon Bailey has to say. First, an orb floats up towards the child between the 13 and 14 second mark. Shortly afterwards, a strange mist fills the air. Maybe it's something else, but I'm not sure because it seems to specifically wrap itself around the child. The last part is what has Sharon convinced that this is paranormal. She says that there were no other children in the house, but 31 seconds into the video, another little girl runs by at full speed. Her footsteps don't make a single sound. Take a listen. The camera was picking up little coughs and other background noise, so it definitely should have recorded running footsteps. Also, neither the dancing girl nor the dog seem to notice anyone is running straight towards them. Sophie Dosey is a talented contortionist with a twisted sense of humor, so to speak. Here she does a crab walk backwards at top speeds, with her head barely hanging above the floor. This is a really creative, ingenious way to scare people that I've never seen done before, but I can't help but think it's a little dangerous too. I mean, if she steps on her hair while walking like this, her neck could snap all the way back. Maybe I'm just exaggerating, but I think I see it almost happen multiple times as she races down the aisle, which adds a whole new level of fear to the overall situation. This home security video shows 2 bright orbs hovering over some bikes in Carolina Beecher's front yard. She watches in silent amazement as the lights remain fixed in place, close to where you would grab the handlebars. The only explanation I have besides spirits is perhaps a dual reflection of the car's brake lights. That still doesn't explain how they float all around though, while the car lights remain stationary. At times the lights even seem to join together and become one. Strange lights in the sky are being reported all over northeast Colorado. Unexplained events caught on video like this one by Jennifer Rollins, who all of a sudden noticed only one star in the whole entire sky, one that was directly above her and way too close, and she got out her camera to record it.
That is a drone. That is so creepy.
The mysterious light does look out of place when you think about it. There are no other stars in the sky, and Jennifer is not moving the camera at all. The strange light moves back and forth by itself, but is it a surveillance drone or something not of this world?
And it's hard to see with this camera, but there are red and white flashing lights on it.
This different recording taken by a woman named Dawn George does indeed show a sky full of mysterious flashing red lights. I have no idea what these could be, and neither does the federal government. They are investigating and have come up with no answers thus far, so either this is a top secret program, or it's something else that we were never meant to see. This YouTuber is recording the wall of his school when an all-white face peeks out from around the corner. When he goes to investigate, the supposed spirit is completely gone. The spirit itself looks very blurry and is probably CGI, although I could very well be wrong. Maybe someone with more knowledge on special effects could give me more info. This exotic bat with an overdeveloped face, first found in Kenya, could be the carrier of many bad things animal wildlife officials fear. Its large head does not look like any bat ever seen before, and its eyes look very big as well. You don't get to see its teeth out, but I can only assume they are as massive as the rest of its cranium. To make matters worse, most of these strange bats start to appear throughout the area. No one knows where they came from, or what has caused them to have such mutated features. If this new species does carry some sort of strange disease, I really hope they are able to quarantine it and keep it from spreading to other parts of the world. Tim, John, and Ben are going to explore a house in the back of the woods that is rumored to be where a clan of worshippers do all kinds of rituals. They wander around in the woods for a while, until a rickety white house rises from the darkness. Inside, warnings are spray painted all across the walls in big dark letters, but they do not heed them and press on. Tim, John, and Ben take turns breaking stuff and jumping out at each other, but suddenly the three become very serious and quiet when they find a dungeon-like basement that leads straight down. The dark area smells extremely foul, and they cover their nose and mouths with their shirts to lessen the stench. The only thing down there besides them are 2 dolls hanging by their necks, or at least that's what they think. Suddenly, all three of them are running from what sounds like a creature with a low, throaty growl.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god. Oh, the police are over. Okay, you gotta go.
If this noise is real, then it almost has to be the end result of a terrible ritual that none of us are brave enough to see. Thank you so much for getting me to 2,000 subscribers on my Clips channel. If you want to support, please press that subscribe button. Let's get to 5,000 subscribers. Thank you.